Welcome to this session of Zen Golf question and answer. Nice to have you all here. And Rob, I see that you would have a question.
I had a question. I'm trying to apply mindfulness to my golf game, as an extra club in the bag. And one of the problems I have, well, numerous problems, but one problem is basically I try to separate my pre-shot routine where I'm breathing, but the question is I always have swing thoughts right in the middle of my swing. How do I eliminate that and just concentrate on the target?
That's a really great question. Okay, so one of the chapters in Zen Golf is never keep more than 100 thoughts in your mind during your swing. And I actually, in one of my classes, I said that, and the person raised their hand and said, "I'm trying to get down to 100." So there's an interesting thing in our mindfulness practice session when we were doing environmental awareness. I had people allow their mind to wander among their sense perceptions, from sight to sound to bodily sensations and feelings, to smells or tastes if they're available, and including our thoughts as something that we perceive. Because we do. If I ask you, what were you just thinking? You can tell me you perceived that. Now, the interesting thing that has been discovered about our sense perceptions is that although it seems on occasion that we can be doing more than one at a time, like you think you are looking at my picture on the device that you're using while you're listening to me. In fact, it's going back and forth between seeing, hearing, seeing, hearing, seeing, hearing very quickly, because we can only hold one sense perception in our mind at a time. All the others go to the background. They don't disappear, but they go to the background. And it's kind of why if you're tasting something and you really want to taste it, you close your eyes, or you're listening to music and you really want to hear it, you close your eyes, so that your mind doesn't go back and forth so much. Now, what's happening to you is it's going back and forth, but it's not going back and forth enough. It's sticking with the thoughts.
Right.
So you lose the mental image, the visual image of your target. You lose the feel of your body swinging the club.
Mm-hmm.
So what you can do is displace those thoughts with a more vivid image of the visualization. And one thing that you can do is, as you walk in, first of all, when you talk about swing thoughts, that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
But you want to more have swing feels and get those in your practice swing, or your what I call a programming swing, behind the ball or next to the ball if you're in the fairway.
Mm-hmm.
And get that feel, okay? And then when you walk into address and set the club, take a good long look out at where you're sending the ball. Remember, we're not hitting at the ball, we're sending the ball. That's another topic. But it's where you want it to go. And if you have an image of the flight, that's fine. Some people just have a starting target and an ending target, and some people just, this is where I want it to end up, and I kind of know the shape that I want to get there. But whatever it is, you have a vivid image in your mind of what the shot is going to do, where it's going to end up. And then when you look back down to the ball, you bring that vivid image to mind. Now, what will help you at that point is to take a nice breath, and as you let it out, let that be the vehicle that you ride the breath into your backswing.
Oh,
Try
okay.
that, because what you'll do, I'll kind of demonstrate. You're set up, you look, and you look back to the ball, and as your breath is about halfway out, you take a nice full breath in, and as it's about halfway out, as the breath goes out, you start back. And it's a nice, smooth, slower takeaway into a much better rhythm. And what you're holding in your mind the whole time is where you're sending the ball.
Right.
And
Okay.
that way, if you're occupied with the feeling of your breathing, the feeling of your swing, and the image, no room for thoughts.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll practice that.
Any other questions? Yeah. Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joe. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you. The last time we were on, my camera wasn't working, so
Nice to see you.
I feel more present now. Okay, so here's my question. One of the fundamental tenets of Zen philosophy is to try as best we can to set aside our preconceived notions.
Okay,
over the years, I've made that a very...
Can I do a timeout? Okay. So say that again.
One of the fundamental tenets of Zen philosophy is to try as best we can to set aside our preconceived notions.
Okay. So the issue, I saw Suzanne, I heard Suzanne laugh, and I bet it's about the word try, right? Because it's really not so much trying. Because if we're trying to do that, we're struggling with them. So it's more to say, oh, be aware of your preconceived notions and let your mind be bigger than those preconceived notions. So continue.
Okay, so yes, so thank you. And I have been able to do exactly what you've described. I've made it an important part of my practice over the years. And as it relates to golf, using beginner's mind has changed my game completely. What I've found is that what allows me to play my best golf just happens to be unconventional. My swing is unconventional. My equipment is unconventional. My approach is unconventional. So here's my question. What advice, Dr. Joe, would you give to someone who finds themselves playing almost exclusively with golfers whose minds are not open, flexible, and accepting?
That is,
I can give you examples of the unconventionality of my game if you would like to know that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Okay, so what my irons are all hybrids.
Mm-hmm.
Now put your mindset into the mind of a conventional golfer who is unable to accept anything outside the previous. So all the irons are hybrids. I use a long putter. I have in my swing, I have an early wrist cock. I wear 2 gloves instead of 1. And keeping score is not a primary concern for me. There is a partial list of some of the unconventional approaches I take to the game. And so, yeah, what advice do you give to someone like me who's playing with other golfers whose minds are closed up tight?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's start with that. That's interesting. First of all, don't assume that their minds are closed up tight. And take the point of view of there's always a possibility of finding some openness there. Now, when you're playing with them, are these people that you know, or are they people that you're just paired up with?
It is a combination of both. So the people that I'm paired up with, of course, I would only be presuming that their minds are closed. But the closer group of friends that I play with, I don't know, would snickering behind the back, would that kind of give you a clue to the fact that their minds may not be as open as mine?
Well, that's an interesting question. Open, or in maybe just that it creates some feeling of insecurity on their part.
Mhm.
because often we laugh at things that make us uncomfortable because we don't know quite what to do with them. Now, do you have a game with these people? Do you play and keep score?
Well, yes, score is kept because someone else usually keeps score. And for instance, if there's a foursome,
Right.
someone is charged with keeping score, so they
Mhm.
keep my score as well.
Right.
But at the end, when I'm really just not as concerned about what my score was, really more concerned about how I felt that day and how many good shots I hit.
Yep.
And they're much more competitive than that, and they have a great deal of chagrin at the end of the game when I'm not as concerned about what my score is. They don't understand. They tell me this.
Now, they're. Are you playing for money? Are you playing for?
No. And if anybody is playing for money, then I'm just not included in the game.
Okay, so let's now, unless they play for a lot of money, I would suggest that you get in the game,
Okay.
but do it from don't lose your attitude and just say, uh, and I appreciate you keeping score for me. Now, you may have to tell them at the end of a hole what your score was, right?
Yes, and I always do.
Yeah. And then just at the end, just tell me who I owe and how much I owe them, and just go with the assumption that without an assumption, say, I don't know what I'm going to do. I remember reading a story of a guy who came to Harvey Penick and he had a very unconventional swing. And Harvey watched it and he said, well, actually, you make the ball go pretty straight. Why do you want to change it? He says, well, my friends are all laughing at me.
Mm-hmm.
He said, do you win the bets? And he said, yeah, which really makes them even more furious. And he said, well, then just laugh all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Don't change anything. The issue is, do you need their approval? Do you need them to treat you differently?
That's a very good point. No, I absolutely do not. I'm resolute in my approach.
If you're fine in your own skin, then you don't have the responsibility to pry open their minds.
Yes.
You don't have the responsibility to say, you should be more open and you shouldn't, you'll be happier if you don't snicker at me. No,
Yeah.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
So you have a very good attitude, but don't impose that attitude on them. And if they're snickering, you can always turn and say, oh, can you let me in on the joke? What was so funny? Was it me hitting a 9 wood
Mm-hmm.
and hitting it closer to you? Yeah,
yes.
that is pretty funny.
Yes.
So at the course that you're looking at, one of the rounds that we played, I played the last 11 holes of the round from 8 through 18 with only a driver. And on a couple of times, I was on the green in regulation and closer to the pin than any of them. They were laughing, but they were laughing with me. So the same thing can go for you. They may be just amused at the fact rather than laughing at you. And again, it's not your responsibility if you're comfortable in your own skin, but you separate yourself by not getting in on the betting. So whether you care about the score or not, as long as it's not for a lot of money,
No.
then a buck or two here, then get in on it. Be one of the team. And somebody else, always do a little preempting. If you're going and someone's paired up with you, preempt and say, now I have a really unconventional kind of setup here, and I just just in case it takes you by surprise, I don't have any irons. And I don't exactly have a textbook swing. But you know what? I have a great time playing golf, and I hope that we'll have a great time together. And I'll tell you, if you don't take too long and you don't interfere with their game and you keep cheerful about things, and hey, Jen, and you don't make them look in the woods for too long for your ball, just say, never mind, that's long enough, and have a collegial atmosphere. No one will care what you're swinging.
That's great advice. Thank you. And yes, I do try to do those things. And the people who have known me for a long time have played with me when I didn't play unconventionally. And we spent a lot more time looking for golf balls back then than we ever do now. This works way, way better.
Great.
Yeah, way better.
Great. Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Jenny. Glad you could make it.
Have I missed the whole thing?
Rather.
It said 8 p.m. on your
Daylight savings time.
Daylight savings time.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, so it's 7 p.m. my time.
Until you change to daylight savings.
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
it's
dear.
the terrible little gap.
Ah,
When do you change to daylight savings?
Saturday week.
One week. 1 week.
Yeah.
We do it a week earlier. Sorry about that.
Oh.
That's all right.
Well,
Ken will
I
have it
didn't
on.
realize. I've just been sitting around waiting.
Ken will have it on the Zoom.
Oh.
Ken will put it up on the YouTube channel, so you can catch
Oh,
up.
I'll have a look then.
So now it's your turn. Any questions?
Me, any questions?
Golf.
Golf. Well, we haven't played golf since December. We've been in lockdown since the 26th of December. So
And
we were allowed back out on the 29th of March.
Okay, so what can you do between now and then? Spend a little time each day visualizing yourself playing a round of golf.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book, Better Golf Without Practice, that was written 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago. And the guy, it shows a picture, it's got a picture of him sitting in a big, easy, wingback armchair, a thought bubble with a picture of a golf course.
Oh, right.
So just take a moment, picture a golf course, picture yourself going through your full routine.
Mm-hmm.
And then hitting the shot, the shape that you want, where you want it to come down. Be realistic. If you say, well, I'm going to be playing that one to the middle of the green, give yourself a 2-putt.
Yeah.
If the pin's in the middle, roll it in. So
sorry.
Go ahead.
I have been chipping into my washing machine with great success, I have to say.
Great. Now, that's wonderful. Now, let me guess something. It's a front loader, not a top loader, right?
It's a front loader.
Yeah,
I'll show you.
Those are easier. Oh, I love it.
Can you see it?
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great.
Wow.
I love it. And I can imagine the surface around that open door is a little bit dented here.
Well, I'm doing it with the air balls, the little light ones.
Yeah, we call them wiffle balls.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
That's right. Yes, I had kind of guessed that. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Fun.
So you can now picture yourself on a par 5, almost, or a long par 4, almost reaching the green and chipping on so successfully, just like you're doing. And then you'll get out there and you'll be having a better time. But I must say, one of the things about the lockdown and COVID the golf here is just booming because it's a time when you can spend time with other people, but not be in outdoors with a breeze, with
Safe.
not close proximity, with social distancing. And you can wear a mask when you're near people, on the tee,
Mhm.
and then just take it down, or wear it the whole time, whatever.
Mm.
You can't be safer.
I had the shot this week, the inoculation. So
Congratulations.
yes, I don't think we'll be able to travel if we don't have it. So that's what sort of.
Well, that's smarter. That's smarter. So
Yeah.
it'll get better. So that's what you can do while you're waiting for golf and waiting for the sun to come out.
That's it. Yes. Yes.
Anybody else? Suzanne.
I have a question. So I've been using the PAR method, and my question is, on the response, I find it's the hardest part, and I forget to do it. So I know what it is, I know what to do, but I forget to do it. How can I remember to do it?
Okay.
Can you say what the PAR is?
Yes, PAR approach. It's the central section of Zen Golf: preparation, action, and response to results.
Okay.
So our preparation prepares us to make a committed, trusting swing. The action is making that, and the response to results has three parts. If you hit a really good shot, you say, that's how I always hit it when and then reinforce something you did in your preparation. And if it was usable, then you say, oh, that was close. And you make the swing you wish you'd made and say, yeah, I just got to do a little more of this or a little less of that. So a tiny adjustment. And then if it was real stinker, you go, where did that come from? That's not like me. And then you erase and replace and go, you know what? I got to do a better job of my preparation. I didn't really get committed. I was kind of an anyway, or I didn't hold, as Rob was saying, I didn't keep that picture of the target in mind. And then you go on. So Suzanne, you will use, this is in the chapter in Zen Golf called Pebbles in the Bowl. And it's what I now call the ninja method of necessary intention and non-judgmental awareness to change your habit. And what you will do is every time you remember to do your post-shot routine in your scorecard, below that hole, you can put a little check mark or a little R, a little R. And so if you made a 4 on the hole, you should have at least 3 R's on there, because you don't need to do it on a tap in.
Thank you.
You don't need to do it. You tap it in, you're done, but you reflect. You could also say the R is to reflect or review. And you put a little mark down each time. Okay. If you want, you can go negative and give yourself an X every time you forget to, but whatever your temperament is for that. And then when you find yourself doing it more and more and missing very few,
yeah,
then now it's become more of a habit. That doesn't mean you'll do it every single time. We're not talking about perfection here. I forget sometimes, but in general, I do the post-shot routine and erase and replace any shot that I wasn't really, really pleased with. But it's important not to beat yourself up and not to judge it. Say, what can I learn from that?
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I want to say a little more about that, the response to results, that when you hit a really good shot, people, in general, they take the attitude of, well, that was luck. or thank you, I'll take any more of those you want to give. but instead, it's important to really take credit for it and reinforce. So if you had a, like Rob, if you had a really good picture in your mind of the shot and you produce that shot, you go, that's how I always hit it when I hold that picture in my mind.
Okay.
Or if you really felt that full commitment and you really and you felt no holding back on that swing, you can say, that's how I always hit it when I don't hold back, or that's how I always hit it when I really go after it, or make a committed swing, or trust my swing. So it can either be in your preparation. Some people say, that's how I always hit it when I breathe and get grounded. Any of those non-technical aspects are good. If you're really working on something, if you're really working on, you know what, I just get too quick at the top, I really have to let it load before I go, and you do a successful job of that and hit a good shot, then you can say, that's how I always hit it when I load before I go. Something like that. That will reinforce the move that you've been working with your swing instructor on trying to incorporate in your game. That's the only time I say, go ahead and use something that's a little more, and that's not quite technical, that's a feel, I don't want to, it's not so good to say, that's how I always hit it when I bring my arm back at a 43-degree angle. It's gonna make you crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello. Hi, Marcella. Did you get the time wrong too?
No.
Okay. You're just there.
Hello. Hi, Joey. I'm sorry I was 9 minutes late, but now I see I am 1 hour and 9 minutes late. The
Yes.
time was.
Yeah.
Oh my
Me
God.
too.
Penny had the same thing. It's you're in Europe. So
Aha.
you'll have the Zoom and we'll get you next time. So
Okay.
we're just about wrapping up.
Okay.
So any last question? We'll do one more and then we'll go, if you have one. Yes,
I'll
Mike.
just make one comment, Dr. Joe, and that is that concerning the response part of the PAR approach that you write about and teach about so well, what that has done for me was really nothing short of miraculous as far as handling anger on the golf course. So I've got to the point very quickly, actually, that I never get angry on the golf course anymore. I used to get very angry. And the beautiful thing about this is that I'm not burying the feelings. I'm not talking myself out of the feelings. The very notion of anger does not occur to me on the golf course, ever. It's like a miracle for me.
That's wonderful. It makes me very, very happy to hear. And it really goes along with the fact that insight cannot, will not, does not arise in the midst of emotional upheaval. So that if your job is to do the post-shot routine, you can't even decide whether it was close or not. You can't figure out, you can't feel the shot that you wish you'd made. You can't do any of that process because you have to shift into an investigative, knowledge-based mode rather than an emotional mode to actually do it. So probably you got a little angry and said, oh wait, I have to do and then shifted over to it. And pretty soon there wasn't any point to get angry because you knew that the next thing you got to do is, it's part of your sequence. It's almost part of the shot, which is what I want. That's why I call it a routine. You want it to become routine so that the pre-shot isn't so much pre-shot as your swing routine. And the post-shot isn't so much after as completing the swing. It completes the process. So the process is one flow, one continuous process from planning the shot through getting over, being done with the shot. So thank you so much. Good job. It's wonderful to see everybody, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And I think the clocks will be synced up by then. You'll have European and British daylight savings time. See, I have to say European and British separately now.
Yes. Well, they're always an hour ahead of us anyway, so it gets very confusing.
Yeah. All right.
Lovely.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ask what time is it in California before you get back on. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That concludes our session of Zen Golf Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.